Adesso è il momento forse più atteso, è la lezione di Jeremy Rifkin sul pianeta Acqua. Prego Jeremy. No, il microfono di Jeremy. Il microfono. You can go.
Okay, can everyone hear me all right? Hello again this morning. I'm going to start with a little story. There were two little juvenile fish swimming in the big ocean, having a very nice time, beautiful weather. And all of a sudden, so these two little juvenile fish, okay, were swimming in the ocean, beautiful day, nice, enjoyable day. All of a sudden, this very old fish, gray whiskers, came alongside these two little fish and said, "Hello, boys, how's the water today?" The two little fish looked at each other and they kept swimming. 2 minutes later, one of the little fish said to the other little fish, "What the hell is water?" What the hell is water? The point of this parable is water is the medium in which we dwell. We take it for granted. We don't even understand that we're in a water planet. The little fish didn't even know. 1972, our Apollo spacecraft was heading to the moon. And as they approached the moon, one of the astronauts took out a home camera. He turned around and took a quick photo of our planet from outer space. It shocked our entire generation. We thought we lived on a land planet. What this photo showed, we live on a water planet. And there's just a veneer of green land here and there. That was a big wake-up call. Shocking. In 2021, the European Space Agency said, "This is Planet Acqua." Shortly thereafter, NASA, our space agency, said, "Yes, this is clear. We've gotten it wrong. This is a water planet." A water planet. That's the beginning point for a new conversation. Here's the problem. For the past 2 centuries, we have been living in a fossil fuel culture. We went under the burial grounds of the Carboniferous era, a period 350 million years ago, where plant and animal life had been morphing into coal, oil, and gas for all this time. We dug up the remains of plant and animal life that had turned into coal, oil, and gas, and then we put these fossil fuels to work. And the result is, after 2 centuries, we have spewed massive amounts of CO2, methane, nitrous oxide into the atmosphere, blocking the sun's heat from getting off the planet. Here is the bottom line. For every 1 degree Celsius, the temperature goes up on this planet from global warming gases. The atmosphere is sucking up 7% more precipitation from the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the soil, the planet's trees, everything into the atmosphere. More concentrated precipitation in the clouds, wild water events. In the winter, blockbuster winter snows. It's We're seeing snow in Southern California. It never had snow. In the spring, we're seeing floods across every single part of the planet. Month after month after month, flooding, ecosystems destroyed, life of our fellow creatures gone, human beings in jeopardy. Then we get month after month in the summer of a warming Earth. We get the heat waves. Can you imagine? We are seeing temperatures of 110, 120, and 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Death. People are dying around the world. So the floods, then the droughts, then the heat waves, then the wildfires. We have whole communities in North America that have been burned out from the wildfires. Then in the fall, we get the hurricanes and the typhoons. Here's what's happening. This powerful water planet is rebelling. We long thought that it was a resource. It's not, it's a life source. And now, because of the heating of the planet and climate change, we're in an extinction event. And our scientists tell us we could lose half the species living this gorgeous little water planet in the lifetime of your children and grandchildren. We'll never see them or hear them again. The last extinction event was 65 million years ago. We're now talking this century. We had to quickly turn it around. We need a completely new set of ideas. And here's the problem. We don't have a playbook for this. We don't have a playbook because the playbook that we're using to address this crisis created the crisis. Now, I'm going to step on some toes here. The problem is it's how we've educated ourselves, how we've approached science, how we've created global institutions. All of these ideas that have come into practice are what's creating the crisis. So the playbook doesn't work. We need a new playbook. We need to start from scratch with a completely new way to understand how do we live on a water planet in our governance, our economic life, our culture. This is a real turning point in history. Let me share a story with you. Back in 2001, Romano Prodi came to Washington, D.C. to visit me. He was the head of the European Commission at that point. He sat me down in the European Embassy. I knew I was in trouble. He held my hand for 15 minutes and wouldn't let go. He said, "Look, Jeremy, you spent 25 years here in America. Nothing's happening here. Come to Europe." The best decision I ever made. Got a lot of frequent flyer miles. The first thing we asked, if the playbook doesn't work, what do? And I suggested that we need an anthropological study. We need to go back and look at how all the great periods of history emerged. What were the paradigm shifts? If we know how they emerge, maybe we get a roadmap for what we can do. And here's what we found out. All the great paradigm shifts in history have shared a common denominator. That at a moment of time, 5 defining changes occur serendipitously and emerge to create a new social infrastructure for how we actually involve ourselves in life. What are they? Number 1, new communication revolutions. Number 2, new energy regimes. Number 3, new modes of mobility and logistics. Number 4, and this is the big one, new ways to address water. Without water, you don't have the other 3. Number 5, new habitats. Simple. Let me give you two examples. The British Isles, the first industrial revolution. The communication revolution was steam power printing, no more manual print presses. The energy revolution was coal. They depleted the forest. They went and got the coal. The mobility revolution, railroads, steam power, 60 miles an hour. The water revolution is the Brits were the first since the fall of the great Roman Empire to put in new water systems. The habitat revolution, urban life, nation-state governance, shareholding companies, national markets. Second industrial revolution, the United States, even more water being abused. The communication revolution, the telephone, instant communication across the continent. The energy revolution, oil. We struck oil in Texas. The mobility revolution, Henry Ford put everyone in the automobile. More fossil fuels. The water revolution, the great hydroelectric power dams, starting with the Hoover Dam in America all the way to Three Gorges in China. The habitat revolution, suburban life. That all collapsed in 2008. In July of 2008, and watch what's happening now in the Middle East. In 2008, the price of oil went to $140 on the global scale. And when oil went to $140 per barrel, the whole global economy shut down. That was the earthquake of all this past history of a fossil fuel industrial age. And so now we're in an end game. They're fighting geopolitics all over the world. Right now it's going on in the Middle East. It's all about oil. It's all about the old paradigm. And what's happening is our hydrosphere is rewilding faster and faster and faster because they're bringing back more fossil fuels, more fossil fuels, more fossil fuels. That's what's going on now. Everywhere, everyone's saying, oh, well, maybe we better have fossil fuels a little longer. No. Every day that we're using those fuels is a day less. Our hydrosphere doesn't give a damn about us. Our hydrosphere is not political. Our hydrosphere affects ecosystems, not nation states. All right? Nation states are a fiction. They're territorial, they're colonial, they're sovereign, but they're not ecosystems. And what the problem is, the floods, the droughts, the heat waves, the wildfires, they impact ecosystems. So you know what's happening? We're shifting governance in part. Nation states will not disappear. They're important. Cities will be very important. Regions will be important. But what they're seeing now is that it's crucial that state governments cross political boundaries to share common ecosystems with other states and other regions. It's happening in socialist countries, it's happening in capitalist countries, because they know that's the way we can move forward. No one seems to be opposed to this, but that's a big shift. So nation states still here, but now we're going to see much more bioregional governance, the floods, the droughts, the heat waves, the wildfires, and it's going to require that we shift our attention to the new technologies that will allow us to prepare, rescue, and restore our ecosystems. This is what we call bioregional governance. We go with where the water's taking us. It's not a resource, it's a life source. So with bioregional governance, we begin a new journey. There's a whole revolution taking place. We tend to think, I don't know if I should talk about this morning, but let me see if I want to do this. Okay, I'm going to do it. Everyone's talking about artificial intelligence, right? But it's artificial intelligence based on the old order of centralized, top-down approaches to our daily life. It's the old playbook. We've got a handful of global corporations out there, a handful of them. And they're saying they're going to take the collective wisdom of the human race and they're going to be able to run the future. Let me tell you, it's all about zeros and ones and dead data. There's no way to compete with the collective intelligence of the human race and all the creatures on this planet. That collective intelligence outperforms any possibility you can have with zeros and one and big data. What we're seeing is a new approach to the planet. It's distributed, and what you're seeing at the universities all over the world, they're doing two things. There are thousands and thousands of courses now. We've surveyed all the universities in the world that are doing two things. They're addressing water as a life source, not a resource. And they're addressing what I call info-factoring. It's not manufacturing. What took us to this is not just fossil fuels, but an industrial revolution based on extracting all of the, quote, resources of the planet. It was extremely successful. Global warming, floods, drought, heat waves, and wildfires, all right? So what's happened is it ended up with 500 global companies. I taught many of those CEOs at the Wharton School of Advanced Management Program. Some of them are in our group. They're friends. But those 500 companies have 65 million workers out of a workforce of 3.5 billion people. And the 10 richest people on that pyramid have a combined wealth that exceeds the wealth of half the human beings on the planet. Meanwhile, what's happening with AI, watch the universities. They're working on water, and they're working on info-factoring. What that means is we're going to need water in a much more distributed fashion. Let me suggest what this means. So let's take Cucinella. You have your architect here, Cucinella? Okay, so he just took a robot and he used clay as his feedstock because cement has too much CO2. It's a problem with the water. So Cucinella, his robot, heats up the clay and it builds out a building in 3 days. Tokyo just built out an entire building with 3D printing in 6 hours. And then it's bringing in a new era where water can be used in a much more distributed fashion with less loss. You know why? Cucinella can take that building and then in 20 seconds on his little cell phone, and there's 4.5 billion people with this cell phone, and it has more power than sent our astronauts to the moon in 1972, he can take his building and he can send it in 20 seconds to an architect in the Philippines, not in a seller-buyer market, a lot of water, but a provider-user network, no shipping, and then she can build out as many buildings as she like and pay a license fee. There's no tariffs. This is happening across Europe. It's a shift in how we use water. So if you look at SAP and Siemens and Airbus, they're all doing it. They just don't know why they're doing it, but they're doing it. But this is a distributed way to move commerce and trade, and it does not require the water that you're using. And it's involved in bioregional forms of governance. This is a big deal. Go to the universities. We'll be at Sapienza tomorrow. Water courses, info-factoring courses come together. This means that you're going to see high-tech, small and medium-sized enterprises for the future. 98% of the world is SMEs and cooperatives. They're the instrument for this new technology that's emerging, which uses much less water, and it's distributed, and it's bioregional. Now, this is the one place America's ahead. I got to say, we're ahead here. One place. We have 2 bioregional governances that understood water well before it's come anywhere else. One is the Pacific Northwest bioregion. It's Washington State, Oregon, Montana, Idaho, Saskatchewan, the Yukon, British Columbia. They steward that water as a life source, not a resource. They don't want to see an oral sea. They don't want to see an oral sea gone in 30 years. Then there's the big one. And I've been working up in the Great Lakes for the last 6 years. The Great Lakes bioregion is all about seeing water as a life source, not a resource. So you have the 8 U.S. states, 2 Canadian provinces, and 5 Great Lakes. You cannot use it up. You have to, as a life source, let it do its thing, all right? Especially with the floods, droughts, heat waves, and wildfires. You cannot use it up. Those 5 Great Lakes are 20% of all the remaining fresh water on the entire planet. Think about that for a moment. In China, as you know, I work with leadership in Europe and China. In China, we have now 8 ecoregions. In Europe, and I want Rome here to lead this, okay? In Italy. In Europe, we only have 1 bioregion. We have a Green Deal. We're moving on a Blue Deal. But we only have 1 bioregion. And the great water events, the floods, the droughts, and heat waves, they're all about bioregions and ecoregions. So what's happening here now is we have France and Spain, the Balearic Islands, Catalonia, Occitania, they have a bioregion. It's huge. So this is all part of a Blue Deal. We need the cities. We need the cities. And the cities have to partner across these ecoregions in order to preserve the waters as a life source, not a resource. This is not rocket science. This is pretty simple. But it's very dramatic because it forces us to change our thinking. And, you know, I'm a big fan. There are certain organizations that I think have really moved us this way. I'm a big fan of FAO and UNESCO. Those are organizations that are starting to take us to this new promise. But where does it leave us? It's a troubling moment, but it's also an opportunity. What I used to say to my corporate CEOs in our advanced management program at Wharton, I would say to them, go back to your dormitory tonight. These are CEOs of global companies, and you think of the worst crisis that could confront your company while you're a CEO, and then report. The next day I say to them, now go back to your dormitory tonight, CEO, think of the worst crisis that could confront your company. That's your biggest opportunity. Crisis creates opportunity. This is the greatest crisis in history. It's the greatest opportunity. We have to rethink the entire infrastructure as distributed, as bioregional, as water-centered. We need a Blue Deal to go with the Green Deal. As you know, we were active with the Green Deal. All of you in this room were active with the Green Deal. This is a Spinelli moment. This is a Spinelli moment for the EU, a big one. And that is, we're going to have to rename this planet. And this is not marketing. I'm not talking about marketing here. We have to rename this planet, Pianeta Acqua, and our codes, our regulations, our standards, and our bylaws in every single city on the planet. So that when a little 5-year-old says to mommy and daddy, what is this place we live on? Mommy and daddy will say, sweetie, you live on Pianeta Acqua. This means that our academic institutions will prepare our young people in how to live and flourish on a water planet. This is absolutely crucial. So here you are in Rome. All roads led to Rome. You created the great aqueducts. I don't know how it was done. Over 3 continents, aqueducts, unbelievable. We still see them out there. If you could do that 2,000 years ago, then it's the time for Rome. So today, you're doing something historic. Very important. You're going to pass a declaration. It's a very brave and courageous thing to do. Courageous. You're going to pass a legislation today that declares Rome as a great Pianeta Acqua City. And what you do today will reverberate all across Europe and Asia and Africa and the Americas. Because everybody's ready for this. People are frightened to death. We've got 8 billion people frightened to death. They don't think there's a future. They don't know what's happening. It's like the 2 little fish in that water. They have no clue of the medium they're in. So today you began an adventure. And I want to leave with a few last thoughts about why I think there's some hope here. I'm not naive. I've been doing with this for about 50 years. But I have some hope, and I want to share 3 little things with you. First of all, I want to share a new project. It's called the Human Microbiome Project. It was initiated by the National Institutes of Health in America. It's now all over the world. You're doing it in Europe. They're doing it in Asia. And you know what they're saying? Everyone in this room is actually a microbiome, an ecosystem. Not a metaphor, literal. Literal. Every living organism, from single-cell organisms to our human beings, are literally an ecosystem. What does that mean? This planet is not a substance ontology, it's a process ontology. Every single moment affects everything else from here to the end of the line. So everything is in movement, everything is in relation. There aren't such a thing as things. There are only forces. So what does this mean? Take the human being. There's only 44% of the cells in human beings are human cells. The other 56% of them belong to all the other creatures in our body. The proteus, the archaea, the fungi, they're all over the place. They're all over the place. And so we have the whole planet, the biosphere, the atmosphere, the lithosphere coming into our bodies every day and then leaving and going somewhere else. The phosphorus in my tooth came from a mountain, weathered by the waters, into the sediment. Then the phosphorus shows up here, and then it goes somewhere else. Everything relives. Last thought on this. The next time you have a drink of water, I want you to know this. Those molecules have been here on this planet before the sun was here. They're as close to immortal as you can know. The next time you drink water, they don't disappear. They came here from asteroids. They were here before our sun was here. Think about the responsibility we have. 3 or 4 days without water, dead. And those water molecules have been here before we were here, and even this gorgeous planet. That's extraordinary. Imagine when a kid learns that in 1st grade. Then doesn't that say we have to take care of this precious thing called water? Without this, no life. That's number 1. Number 2, our anthropologists at the Smithsonian Museum, many of you have visited our beautiful museums in Washington, they did a study with New York University scientists. They asked, how did our species survive? Homo sapiens. This little teeny species, not very strong, not very physical, a couple little legs. How did this species survive? And here's what they found out. 800,000 years ago, our planet tilted. It tilts sometimes, one way or the other, it tilts. It tilted. It unleashed a series of events where there was 100,000 years ice age, then 10,000 years warming. 100,000 ice age, 10,000 warming. 100,000 ice age, 10,000 warming. This went on for 800,000 years. It won't go back now because we have global warming. No more ice ages. So they said, how did human beings survive this and travel all over the world, way back in history and across the oceans? Big brain, really big neocortex. Language. Our other fellow species, we now know that they pass on knowledge to their offspring. They do. But we have the ability to store that knowledge and use it in very, very important ways. So we have a big brain. Then we have this. See that thumb? Homo faber. Our other species are very good at making tools, especially beavers. They all make tools, but we are really good at making tools. So we have these two phenomena with us. And finally, we have empathy built into our biological code. It was Italian scientists who discovered mirror neurons. That's one of the great breakthroughs in history. It was Italians that did this. 3 scientists. We now know, and we know that elephants have it now, those neurons. We're not sure about dolphins and whales. They came from land originally. But this is amazing. So what I'm saying is these 3 things alone should give us the strength, the will, the desire to get to it and begin to learn how to live on this water planet and hopefully let water allow life to flourish for millennia to come. What you're doing this morning is the first step. And then you bring it across Italy. Then you take it to the mayors across the European Union. Then you take it to the world. And do this. This can be done in less than 2 years. Then take it to the great water organizations. Then take it to all the bioregions. So I am privileged to be here with you today. I want to thank you for having the courage and the conviction at this city council to lead. Others will come with you. And we start this morning, right here and now. Thank you.